Welcome to the Slut Next Door podcast, where we dive deep into desire, unravel kinks and fetishes, and explore the deliciously naughty side of self-discovery. I'm Beatrix Vale, an erotic audio creator, and your guide to all things kinky and curious. So let's begin. Welcome back to part 2 of my behind the scenes series on adult content creation. So last time I shared my origin story and I give you a peek into how I actually create the ideas, the tools, and the processes that turn inspiration into a finished piece of work. But today, we're stepping into an entirely different side of my world, the business side. Because being an adult content creator is not just about creativity. It's also about strategy, structure, and showing up with a CEO mindset. I'm going to share how I've built my business, how I think about my brand, and the systems I use to keep everything running behind the scenes. And of course, we'll talk about one of the most important pieces of the work, the audience, the connection, the real humans on the other side of my screen. I'll share how I approach engaging with fans, what those interactions mean to me, and how I balance intimacy with boundaries. So, we can say that part 1 was about the art, and now this part is about the architecture, the business, the brand, and the bond with my audience. So, let's go ahead and dive in. So, first, I'm going to start with talking about the business side, and this might be boring. I don't know, but it's important to really show you guys that, what it's like to be an adult content creator. It's not just all fun and games, sadly, but I do enjoy this side of it. This was an unexpected side of adult content creation that I thought I would take interest in and like enjoy. And when I say enjoy, more so it's fun, and it's not even the right word. It is fulfilling to watch a business grow. And it's like the strategy, I think, that is enjoyable and fulfilling. So first I'll talk about how I monetize, because like I said, this is, I'm not going to lie and say that this isn't a business for me. This is my career. Being an adult content creator is what I do. So I'm really giving you a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, and letting you know how this is a business. And I've mentioned this before on the podcast. While I do monetize my work, it still is something that I put a lot of heart into. And my business and my brand, who Beatrix is, because big surprise, big spoiler alert, Beatrix is not my real name. But anyway, Beatrix is me. She is me. And I do think that has led to some success for me because I am genuine. I am absolutely into the content that I make. And I'll kind of talk about that more in a minute. But right now, I'm going to talk about how I do monetize. And if you are not familiar with, who I am and what places I exist on online, this will be for you. If you do know, then this is kind of repetitive, but so just hang in there. I do work off of a subscription model. And what that means is I use Loyal Fans. So Loyal Fans is like an OnlyFans. I don't like doing what, the majority do. I like being different. And so that's why I joined Loyal Fans, because I was like, fuck OnlyFans. Like, that's what everyone's doing. And I didn't ever hear great things about the site either. I have been on Patreon and I was banned. I won't get into that. It was very annoying, to be honest. I did not agree with their decision, but whatever. Um, and then I have something called Subscribe Star, which is my backup to Loyal Fans. So a subscription model for me looks a lot different than what a lot of other adult content creators do. It's what a lot of audio girls do. You subscribe, and that subscription price unlocks content that you can't find anywhere else. And why that's different than most content creators, like, say, a video clip creator, that's making porn videos, they're that's really not what they're doing. Um, I think a lot of their subscription sites are teasing pictures and videos and such, but with an audio creator, like, I don't have those pictures and stuff, So the subscription model becomes almost like when you think about Netflix. If I pay Netflix a certain amount of money every month, I get access to hours upon hours of movies and TV shows. So it's the same thing. Um, I I've always preferred the subscription model because, it's I want to be available to, like, I don't want to lock out people because of price. And that's just the kindness in me, the empath in me. um, I love that you can give me a pretty reasonable amount and you can still support me and get some of my content. Um, so it's kind of like relying on a big group of people to help you be successful in your business rather than relying on individual sales. And how to decide, like, what's worth it. Like, I feel like if I were to talk to other adult content creators, especially ones that aren't audio creators, they would be like, no, no, I would never do a subscription model. I actually have a friend that does video, and she always says, I'm never going to be a subscription girly. I think she says it because it's just, like I said, I think it's because, if I were to create videos, I'm going to have selfies, I'm going to have little teasing clips that I can post in a subscription site. So as an audio creator, I guess I could post little voice teasers or something, but there's more to work with when you're a visual artist and doing a subscription site. But, I think a lot of video girls, and I've seen a lot of, because I'm a part of some communities online that are for adult content creators. And I think a lot of creators have the mindset that, no, you never get anything for free. Someone always has to be paying you. And while I do get that, like, I get that thinking, and I get that you think that, oh, well, if they pay this low amount, they're getting all this content. Like, I get that thinking, but, I know from doing research that this is how, very top performing audio creators that perform well above me monetarily, this is how they set up their business. And that's kind of like when I first started doing audio work, I would study what top performers were doing in terms of where they're posting, how much they're charging, what would be behind that subscription, I really looked at that because I found that to be market research. And so that is just what audio girlies do. Is that we do a lot of subscription models. And that is what works for me. And I enjoy offering that. While I also have on the other side, I did start doing this year where I posted the same files that are behind the subscription price. I posted them on clip stores. So if you don't know what a clip store is, it's like I want clips or clips for sale. They are sites that independent creators, even porn studios, can post videos, clips, and, users can buy them for a certain price. I did not anticipate that these sites would be so great for me. And they really, really have. They have opened up a whole new fan base, because you have people on these sites that are just starving for content within their preferences. And so you've got fetishists that are there and hungry for whatever they're looking for. And so it's been good for that, and it's been good for adding to the overall monthly revenue coming in. It just created a little bit more work in that, I had to physically upload and post that stuff as well. And I know that some other creators would say, well, why don't you just have a clip store and the subscription site, like all your content goes in the clip store. Again, I get that. I get that line of thinking, but I'm just curious if clip store selling would make me the same amount of money I'm making now with the subscription model. I don't know if it would match because, like I said, that's just what audio fans are used to doing. They are used to paying a certain amount a month and getting content for that price. That's just how it is. Um, Another way that I am monetizing my brand, my business, is I do offer customs. And specifically, too, on Loyal Fans, I started last year offering personalizations, which is where I take an existing hypno file and I go in and I edit, well, not edit, I redo some of the whispery background layers. I redo them with the fan's name. So if your name is John and you ordered a personalization of Cuddle and Trance with Goon Mommy, I'm going to go in and I'm going to create this whole new layer where I'm saying, deeper, John. Yes, John, you know. And there's some where I'm like moaning your name. They turn out to be such special experiences. I'm telling you, sometimes when I go back and listen to it after I'm done editing, I'm like, this is so fucking cool. Like, I can't imagine hearing my name in this way. Anyways, I do offer customs and personalizations, and that is a way that I monetize. It is a way to help support me. And I think I mentioned this in the other episode. I'm pretty much commission based at this point. So, someone will come to me and say, hey, I want a custom for XYZ. And I'm like, great, let's do it. They pay me for the custom. I create it, I deliver it to them, give them their time with it. And then eventually that clip becomes something that goes into my loyal fan site, my subscribe star, and it also gets posted on Clips for Sale or I Want Clips. So that that custom ends up supporting me a lot. And this really has been a fantastic way to run my business. And it does have some drawbacks though, because I am doing a lot of content that is custom now. I do use names in customs, and I do edit them out before I post them. But I think the drawback to this is that I do have a lot of things that I want to do. Like, I have a lot of ideas myself. And, like, okay, so the Y series, that's all me. That was not commission based. That was something that I wanted to create for Beatrix, and I created it. And, my customs just got pushed to the side that week, for example. Um, so eventually, once I get where I want to be, I'll probably back away from customs a bit. Right now, it works for me, and I mean, I gotta admit, sometimes like these customs, they turn out to be files that are so fucking good. Like, I've always said this ever since I started doing sex work. Like, you guys have the best ideas, like the best. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, that's so brilliant. Like, this is gonna be such a good file. Um, so that is a pro to it. But I do know that I'm sure that some of my fans probably get a bit annoyed because they're like, oh my gosh, I wish she would do more of this. But, you know, sometimes I just get a flood of certain type of files, and that's what ends up getting, pushed out. It's just unfortunately how it is right now. But like I said, I very much cannot wait until the point that I do get where I maybe just take some customs, and most of it is me and my ideas. And let me talk about customs for a minute because they really are like, I love doing them. I'm going to be honest. When I did my first one, I can remember the very first one I did. I immediately fell in love because I was getting to make someone's fantasy come alive. Like, that was very, very exciting for me. And I still love doing customs, love them. But they can be challenging, I think, for some other creators because it does take like a lot of thinking, actually. You're taking someone's words, right? What they think they want. And then you have to take those words and turn it into something that is accurate to what they want. And, I've learned what questions to ask. I call them trigger words. When I say trigger words, I mean arousal trigger words. So, like, words that really like trigger you in the best way. Like, when you hear them, oh my God, they turn you so horny. Um, so anyway, taking a custom request and unpacking that and then trying to figure out what they want, that is, I think, a skill. And luckily, I have that skill naturally. I don't know what it is. Um, Again, I'm going to bring it over. Maybe it's the empath in me. I'm not sure. But that is a challenge. And I think what some other creators do struggle with is, knowing what the hell is this guy asking me to do? I don't know. um, for me, that's always been an easy thing for me to do. So luckily, because I do love doing customs. Now, let's talk about the free content. And again, I know that other adult content creators would hear that and be like, oh my God, free? What are you talking about? Yes, I do post out free content, full length free content. And I do account this to my success. I do. I've always had the thought, like when I first started doing this, I believe that like porn is saturated. There's so much porn out there. Even audios. You can go out and find audio after audio after audio. So I've always kind of thought in my mind, how do I stand out? How do I stand out in this oversaturated world? Well, if someone listens to my file and I make them come, and I make them come well, like, I make it a very memorable experience. My thinking is that they're always going to come back. They're going to have me in their mind. So I've said this more than once, like, if men know how you make them come and they know it's good, they're gonna come back for more. So that was kind of my thinking in the beginning. And also in the beginning, how am I supposed to get my name out there if all I'm pushing out is a little 30-second teaser? Sure, they can hear my voice, but that I feel like people want to know they want to know more. They want to know, okay, well, I mean, how are you going to make me come? How do you set up this hypnosis file? Are you good at putting me into trance? So I feel like free content for me and my business has been great because it lets people know like my skill level. It lets them know if I am their style, because I'm not going to fit for every person who likes hypno. Some some hypno creators fit for this person, while this other person, it's not going to fit for them. We all have different tastes and different whatever. So another way that free content works is that it works as a marketing strategy that I don't really have to do much with. I don't have to actively market that free content. If I post it on Pornhub or if I post it on Reddit, it's going to be there as long as my account is up, and it's going to get traffic no matter what. So it acts as a way to promote myself. And if I'm thinking like a businesswoman, a CEO, I want people to know that I have a quality product. I don't want them to hear this dinky little 30-second audio that, is cheap. I want them to know that when they come for more, it's just going to be even better. And the other thing is that I do have a heart for people. Like, I have been in the place where you can't afford anything extra. So, with that being said, like, pushing out free content, I'm happy. Like, I'm happy that someone presses play on my file. Sure, I love making money, but I also love what I do. And again, I think some of my success comes from that genuine nature behind me. Um, Another thing is that online sex work world is very saturated. And unfortunately, it's very saturated with people that look at others as just wallets. I see this person online. How can I make money from them? How much money can I make from them? And that's all they see. And that's fine. But like, I'm in this for the long haul. I want to be good at this. I want to build a brand that is sustainable and that I can be proud of. And so I see people, a listener or a fan, as more than someone that has a potential wallet. And if there's someone out there that can't afford even $5, they can barely give out $1, they're that broke. I'm happy that I have a piece of content that they can listen to and feel good with. I'm happy with that. Um, I I come from an upbringing where it's really rude to talk about money. And so that always has stuck with me, even now. And so I will never, ever tell you guys how much money I make. I feel like that's very, like, gross. Yeah, it's very gross. Um, but I do not, it's not bad. It's, I am I am making more money than I ever have in my life. And I'm not saying I had like crappy job. I had like decent jobs. But if you're in America, you know that it's super hard nowadays, especially nowadays, to survive even on like a pretty decent income. um, but I I put out free content and I'm not doing a bad job. I'll just put it that way. So, it's I think it's crucial. It's work for my business. It may not work for someone else, and that's totally fine. Anything I ever say on here is never like this is how it should be. I'm doing it right. No, this is like my journey and what's worked well for me. Going back to the business side of things, you've also got social media. I personally, the social media I use is Twitter and Reddit because unfortunately, those are the places that are at least a little bit friendly to the kind of content I make. Instagram and TikTok, I do have hopes and dreams, and I actually started accounts there, but I don't have anything on it yet. I need time to figure that out, but that's perfect example of how you know, this is a business. I have to think about how do I reach people, and these are the ways that I reach people. Like, for example, Twitter. I'm hoping that anything that is on my Twitter reaches someone who's never heard of me. Or on Reddit, when I post a piece of free content, I hope that reaches someone that's never heard of me. And hopefully they want more and it funnels them to my subscription model or my clip stores. But on social media, you have to create content. You're having to post things. You're having to pay attention to it. Sometimes even answer messages in there from people that aren't trying to waste your time, of course. But so that's a whole juggling thing there. And then also keep in mind from the part one of this, along with the social media, along with the uploading the clip stores, along with the, maintaining my subscription model, I am also having to write scripts. I'm also spending sometimes hours at the mic editing and recording. So, I hope by the end of this little series that I'm doing that you'll see like how the fuck does she do all this? I don't know. I mean, I do know how I do it, but that's my goal is to try to paint that picture to show that adult content creation, isn't just and let's just say I was a visual artist. It isn't just flash your tits and you make money. It's way, 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 way more than that. And I think that is a misconception that people think, oh, that has to be the easiest job. Oh, you just sit in front of a mic and moan. No, no, that is not all I do at all. Um, and one of you had a fantastic question about how I schedule my time or how I keep track of everything. So that has been a work in progress. And I feel like I've finally reached a level that is very professional and very effective. So I used to have like actual notebooks I would write in because I've always been a planner person. I love having a planner, I love writing in a planner, but that wasn't working out for me very well. And so I took some time to develop skills and knowledge on how to use Notion. Notion is, gosh, I don't even know what to call it. Like, I know some people use, um, like, you can build, I don't know what to call it actually, but Notion is like, here's how I use it. Notion, I have a calendar. I have multiple calendars actually. I have a content calendar that kind of lays out what I'm going to post throughout the month. And then I have a Beatrix planner calendar, which lays out kind of like my recording schedule. So, like knowing what day I'm going to record this. I also use Notion to track customs. So, anytime I take a custom on, I have this table or this database of the username, how long the custom is, so on and so forth. I also use Notion to hold my catalog of audios. So I put in there like the title, the description, the tags, the link to it, like where it can be found. And it's available for anyone to see because the great thing about Notion is you can create a public link to it, to whatever it is, the database that you created. I have this whole like library of docs. And so when I say docs, like within Notion, you can create documents, like a Word doc, basically. But it's not a Word doc. I shouldn't call it that. It's it's basically like a note, um, just like a blank note that you can put anything into. So I have this library of docs that is so valuable to me. It has, I'm actually going to open it up here on my computer so I can give you an example. So it's got like important links that I wanted to save. It has a weekly plan. So, like, I came up with this plan of how I wanted to approach my subscription site, Loyal Fans. So I kind of like note what I want to do during the week. I have my list of improv audios and docs. I have a little document called ideas. So if I have like something I thought of during the day, I just jot it down real quick in there. Um, all kinds of things. I have finance stuff in there, just all kinds of things. Um, but the calendars are what are so crucial to me um, because you have to stay organized. Like, once you really start becoming established as a content creator, you are just flooded with so many things. Like, it can get a little overwhelming. And if you were not organized, it would all crumble. It seriously would all crumble. Um, so, I found Notion and it has just been a godsend for me in terms of organization. Because that was the other thing is I'm a very organized person, but before Notion, I had everything everywhere. So what I mean by that is I had documents in Google Drive. I had important stuff written down in a notebook on my desk. I had the sticky notes, like the ones on the computer, like the app, whatever, where you have like sticky notes on your screen. I had important stuff on there. I just had like stuff everywhere, and that was driving me bonkers. And so, what I like about Notion is it allows me to have everything in one place. Love it. So that's how I schedule my time, basically. And you know, it's I'm tripping up because this is something that I want to improve on. Like, I wish I could say that, hey, on this day from 9 to 12, I'm doing XYZ. And then on this next day, I do this from 2 to 3. I've tried that before and it just didn't work out for me. I know that there's some creators that spend one day recording content and then the next day is spent editing that content, then the next day is spent doing that. I just can't do that. When I record, it takes a lot out of me mentally, to be honest. And so like to imagine sitting there one day a week recording for hours, mm-mm. I know I would create shitty content. I know I would. So a lot of days I'm recording almost every day of the week. and I'll record something and then I'll work on editing. But what I have done recently is every Friday I have set aside time to where I'm doing admin work. I'm doing all the things like, juggling all the balls, if so to speak. Um Basically where I'm doing everything except content creation. And that's been working really well. Although this past Friday, I just started doing it and I still did record a tiny little audio on Friday. Just couldn't help myself. Um, so that's how I schedule my time, and then just showing up consistently. That just is always my advice to new creators. Show up every day. Even if you're not in that sexy mood and you cannot create content, still show up, because there is always something to do, always something to learn. There's so many things, you know. So yeah, and so then I wanted to hit on kind of how I developed this business side, because honestly, like, my jobs before adult content creation were not business focused. Like, I did not go to school for business. So this has been something I have developed. I have developed this skill through adult content creation. I mean, that right there, that should be the slogan of this little series. Like, creating sexy audios, right? Making men come, I'll just put it that way, has taught me business skills, okay? Anyway, so when I first started out doing this work, I bought this book that I found on Amazon because I'm a learner. I like to learn everything before I do something, because it's important for me to feel confident before I start doing something. So I had purchased, I'm not going to remember the name of it exactly, but it's by Amber Lee Rothfield, I think is her name. And she wrote a book, How I Made $10,000 in a month or something like that on Night Flirt. Something, the title's something like that. Um, but her book was so, I still use and think about that book to this day, and I read it years ago. So something that I really took away from her book is she had suggested that you find, I believe hers was 4 niches, but find 4 areas, niches that you create content in, that you are a master of. And you just fill those buckets. That's all you do. You never not have content to do, because you can just say, oh, I'm going to go fill that bucket. And that has worked really well for me. And the thing about it is that the idea behind it, let's take cuckold, for example. If I say, okay, something I specialize in, one of my niches is cuckold. All the cuckold fans in the world are going to probably, and let me say that again, all the cuckold fans that are fans of erotic audio should know my name if I do things right. Because when people are fans of something, typically they want to devour everything about it. And so, that's what you're pulling those hardcore fans within the niche, and if you're making quality content, they're going to be fans for life. And that's another thing I pulled from her, is that, I would say a lot of things in her book taught you kind of like a business mindset, which I had nothing, like nothing of a business mindset. I had no clue how to run my own business. Um, But, she really pushed that you want a forever fan. Like, you want that lifelong fan that's always going to be there to support you. Just like, um, I don't know, Walmart wants you to always shop at their store because you save money there. You like how there's never a surprise in what you buy, there's trusted brands. It's the same thing. You want someone that they know when they come to me that they're going to get high quality erotic audios. Um, so that's something that I have really pulled from her that I think about all the time. And here's another example of the niche. So I would say that my niches are this. Femdom isn't a niche because that's like too wide. There's a lot of things that fall under the femdom umbrella. So my niches would be erotic hypnosis, gooning, mommydom, cuckold. A recent one, premature ejaculation. Am I forgetting a big one? I think those are the main ones. And so the one I wanted to bring up is premature ejaculation. That this has been a new niche for me, and I've thought about Amber Lee's book so much because when I started making content within that kink, I started to see a lot of growth. And then I, created more content in that niche and started growing even more growth. And I literally witnessed, pre-Jack fans flocking to me. And it's just, it's a example of hitting a niche and hitting it well. And, one of the pieces of advice I would give, and I'm sure Amber Lee did in her book, you don't ever pick a niche that you're not passionate about because you're going to be talking about it every single day, day in and day out. It has to be something that you like. It has to be something that you're knowledgeable in too. That, and if you aren't knowledgeable, you better start studying. You have to know every corner of that kink. You have to know, like, for example, gooning. I think that if you're going to hit that niche hard and well, you have to know how to speak to goon encouragement, gooner humiliation, pornosexuals, CEI, edging, denial. You have to know everything about that kink. So that has been at the core of my brand for sure. And why, if you go back to one of my mommy dom podcast episodes, I've always been mommy. I couldn't get away from it if I tried because that is, that mommy dom energy is me. And again, Beatrix is me. I can't stress that enough. I am who is in those audios. Yes, I may play a role and amp up who I am because, it's content, but I am there. Trust me. And then lastly, within the business side of things, I wanted to talk about how this has been a major shift for me personally in my adult content creation business is thinking that I am a CEO and knowing that I am because I am a CEO. And I learned this idea from a wonderful woman that helps other online sex workers. Her name is Melrose Michaels. She is lovely, sex work CEO. I can have her to thank for that because, when I started thinking that way, that, yes, I am a CEO. I am a bad fucking bitch. No. But just thinking like, I make the decisions. I am my boss. I need to make decisions like a CEO. I need to treat my time like a CEO. That really was a game changer for me and really boosted my confidence, to be honest, because I I can look back on this career and it feels like a whirlwind, and it a lot of times I can think back and think I'm on the edge of my seat all the time figuring things out. And when I stopped for a second and I thought, look at what I'm doing. I built I built a brand, and I'm building something that people come back to, and to give myself that credit was really important for me on this journey. And I feel like I keep repeating this, but if you're listening to this and you're a fan, you might be thinking, I don't know, I might imagine you might think that, oh, well, she's just selling a brand. And yes, I am. I am the brand. You know, Beatrix Vale is the brand. And guess what? I am Beatrix Vale. Beatrix Vale is me. No, but it's it's just a mental switch that happened for me that felt really important on my journey. And, with selling a brand, it's important to feel confident and ensure that you're selling and presenting a trustworthy brand, a brand that feels like a luxury, if you will, instead of, a store bought brand. You want your brand to be this something you can be proud of, and so yeah, that's been a big thing for me, and I'm very, very proud to present it in that way to you guys, to let you know that I do think that way. And yeah, mommy is a CEO, baby. Um, so the funny thing is that I had planned to talk about audience and interaction in this episode. And guess what? I have blabbered my mouth 20 more minutes than I wanted to. So now I will be creating a part 3 that will just be audience and interaction. My goodness, I just get in front of this mic sometimes and I just can't stop talking. But here's why. I feel so passionate about what I do. I really do. I fucking love what I do. And I could just sit here and talk about it for hours. And that's what I'm doing in all these parts. But that's why these are ending up like, seriously, if you listen to part 1, I had this plan that I was fitting all the things in one episode. And I have no idea why I thought I could do that. But I think it's because I get on this microphone and I have an audience that I know will listen, and I can't stop talking about how much I love what I do. And I hope that this has been, or that this is becoming something that's interesting to hear me talk about it, because if you're a fan of mine, you hear me talk a lot, but usually it's in a very sexy way. So, if you're like me, I can see why you would have a curiosity and, how I do what I do. And I hope that you can also see why I do what I do. why I do things a certain way, because now you see my mindset. But I'm going to wrap things up here. And then next week, I will talk about a very crucial part of this business, of my adult content creator business, the audience and the interaction. It is arguably one of the most important pieces of this whole picture, and one that I just cherish and adore. And I'm just going to say, I have the best fans. I will fight anyone. I do. Okay. I'm still rambling. I really am. I'm going to wrap it up here and let you know that this is coming from CEO Beatrix, that you can find more of my work if you click the link in this episode description, and make sure you tune in next week. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're listening on YouTube. Comment, like, do all the things, and I will talk to you then. I'm getting I've been talking too long. Okay. Thanks for listening. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of The Slut Next Door, where we dive deep into the raw, unapologetic truths of human desire. If you loved what you heard today, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a juicy moment. Want to connect with me outside the podcast? Click the link in my bio, where you can find lots of juicy content and options. Until next time, I'm Beatrix Vale, your Slut Next Door, and I'll see you in the next episode.